Okay. Welcome everyone to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting. Declaration of opening is made at 5:30 p.m. Welcome everyone, which I'll get to in a minute. This is a meeting where we make a decision. So as I advised during the forum, we had question and answers. Tonight, councillors need to make decisions on every item that is presented. So item number 2 is opening procedures. 2.1 is acknowledgement of country. So the Shire of Northern would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet, and that's both the Balladong people and Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. And we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Item 2.2 is recording of council meetings. So members of council are well aware, and members of the gallery, which is members of the public, are advised that this meeting is being live streamed and audio recorded, and it's made available on the Shire of Northern's YouTube channel. Members of the public would like access to this recording at any stage, the recording of this meeting, they can do so via the Shire of Northern website. Item 3 is attendance. 3.1 is attendees. As usual, I'll go around and go from left to right, but you'll notice if you've got a copy of the agenda, we've got 2 councillors who weren't here last week and 1 officer who wasn't here this last week, so I've just been put in yellow in anyone's agenda. So we have Councillor Bigland, Councillor Gierak, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Williams, Councillor Mencelli, President Antonio, Councillor Appleton, Councillor Polton, Councillor Hughes, who are all here, and the staff. We have the CEO, Ms Terling, Executive Manager Engineering Services, Mr Devsich, Acting Executive Manager Development and Community Services, Mr Tester, Executive Manager Corporate Services, Mr Young, Manager Governance and Risk, Ms McCall, and Acting Governance Officer, Ms Norris. And then I've got all the staff, that is all there. Item 3.2 is apologies, which is nil. So we go to page 7. And item 3.3 is approved leave of absence, that is nil. If anyone is looking at that and it's highlighted in yellow, that's because we had a councillor on approved leave of absence last week. So that's changed from last week to this week. Item 3.4 is absent, that is nil. Item number 4 on page 8 is disclosure of interests. And we have a number there. The one that I'll read out now is 13.3.1, proposed scheme amendment number 2185 Wellington Street Northern. Councillor Gierak has declared partiality. Councillor Gierak, also resident who submitted comments to this proposal, is a workload to Councillor Gierak. The other 2 application behind closed doors, so I'll read those out as we get to those items behind closed doors. That's disclosure of interest. Then we go to page 9, and councillors are well aware as the item comes up, declaration or a decision or discussion is held. So item number 5 is announcements by the presiding member without discussion, so that is as written. Then we go to page 11. So item number 6 is public questions. So this is one of 2 sections where the public can participate in tonight's meeting. So I will go to members of the gallery and see if there is any public questions. There is, so we just ask the members of the public to come up here, state their name, and Councillor Bing will put the microphone. And I will say, because I don't know what the question's about, if it's about the quarry, I will need to leave.
Yeah, you need to leave.
Thank you. I'll just hand over to Councillor Mencelli.
Right, proceed.
My name is Enrica Grogan. In relation to the quarry proposal on Fivedale Road, is there a proposed timeline that the council would vote on it? I don't mean a date, I just mean a timeline, because I suppose from my point of view, I'm a little bit worried that I'll even miss the vote and I won't even actually be here. I know you can check the minutes of the meeting, but we don't get any other correspondence. So the months come around really quickly. This is my 3rd meeting. I've read, I can see what they had not here tonight. But I'm just wondering, can we get some information on how I would prepare for that?
Okay, I'll defer to the CEO.
Thank you. So at this point in time, we have asked the applicant for further information, and we are waiting for that information. So I guess it does depend how long it takes for the applicant to provide that information. We would advise normally though, any petitioners related to the application when the matter was going to come before council, but we can make a note of that and let people know when the matter is expected to come before council. But at this point in time, we're waiting on information, so we don't know how long that will take.
Is there a deadline for them to provide that information?
I need to take that question on notice. I don't think there is, but I will take that question on notice and confirm if there is a particular deadline.
And then if I had questions in the meantime, who would I contact at the Shire? Rather than looking for a meeting to speak.
Yeah, so it would normally be our Executive Manager of Development and Community Services. Gordon Test is acting in that role at the moment. Chad Hunt will be returning from leave on the 12th of May, and he would be the best person to ask questions of in the meantime.
Okay, so not Jackie Dorman, who was listed on the...
No, Jackie has left the Shire.
Okay. And then, sorry, if they're procedural, is it still that person, like as in how these things work? Is that still the best person to ask? So it's not necessarily in relation to Corey, but how the proceedings roll out. If I wanted to contact councillors, if we were going to have a meeting, and how would I let councillors know to attend that kind of stuff? That's still the person?
Yes, it would still be appropriate to do that through Chad.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions in relation to that particular item? If not, I'll recall the Shire President.
Thanks, Councillor Mantelli. So, any further public questions? Okay, so item number 7 is response to previous public questions taken on notice. That is on page 11, so that is as written. Then we go to page 12. Oops, page 12, just bear with me. So item number 8 is receiving of petitions, presentations and deputations. 8.1 petitions is nil. 8.2 presentations is nil. And then on page 13, 8.3 is deputations. We have had an application for deputation or to make a statement. So I'll just invite Mr. Gregory up.
Thank you. Last week I asked a couple of questions about the proposed development subdivision rezoning of 185 Wellington Street, and I was told that there was advertising done, information sent out, etc., etc. I've since gone through the last 8 months of the Northern advertising, and there was no advert placed in the advertiser. You know, public notice, etc. I can leave this behind so that people can look, but basically there's been no advert in public notices. I looked on the Shire website in the public notices section, there's been no notification on public notices of this on there, and I live 150 metres from the location. I was told last week probably 300 people were letterboxed. I didn't receive one. My next door neighbour didn't receive one. On my way here this evening, as I walked past the lady working in her garden who was directly opposite, I said, "Are you aware of this?" She said, "I've heard about it." I said, "How do you feel about it?" Very, very bad, very, very bad was her comment. But the only reason she heard about it was because I put a note in her letterbox asking if people have heard about it. So I don't believe it's been adequately advertised. I know that there were 4 objections from people without it being advertised, so I'm not sure how much that will change. So I'm respectfully requesting that the council does not support this change until the public and local residents have a chance to review the proposal. The developers present a proposal that will not harm the amenity of nearby residents. Your role as a council, as a shire, is to ensure that your residents' amenities are as best as possible. The current suggested design damages that anyone living within that 200-300 metre range and Lady Cross Road particularly. So until you've spoken to the public about it, I don't think it should be approved. Developers need to present a proposal that won't harm the amenity. The Developers Council show that the development and the parking that goes with it will not be dangerous, because currently it will be dangerous. And finally, the council, developers and residents have a meeting with local police to develop a plan to manage what will, unquestionably, be more antisocial behaviour than yet another alcohol outlet in Northern. There's alcohol available within 700 metres from 3 different locations. Not sure that we need it, and I'm not sure that being 15 metres off the road from someone's house is how they want it to be. There was a comment made that the Duke is nearby, or the Wreck is nearby, and we haven't had any complaints about that. That's completely false. Everybody knows there's been complaints from people around the Wreck, and that's it. So yes, please don't support it until we've investigated, until you've spoken to the public, until there's a development that is good for all, and that the police are involved, so that we know that my safety, my family's safety, and that of the residents is paramount. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bradbury. Are there any further deputations from the members of the public? Statements? No? So then we go to item number 9, which is application for leave of absence. You'll see there's one here that wasn't included last week. So the recommendation is there that Council grant Councillor Gio leave of absence from 7th July 2025 to 8 August 2025. Councillor Hughes has moved. Councillor Menchilli has seconded. Is anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. So then we go to page 14. So item number 10 is confirmation of minutes. 10.1 is confirmation of minutes from the ordinary council meeting on 26th of March 2025. So we've got that there. We've got Councillor Poulton is moving, Councillor Menchilli is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. And item 10.2 on the same page is notes from the council forum meeting held 16th of April 2025. Just wanted to check if there's any queries or clarifications, as that is a new item tonight. So any queries or clarifications, councillors? No? So then we have a recommendation there that we receive the notes from the council. Councillor Hughes is moving. Councillor Poulton is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. We now go to page 42. Item number 11 is items brought forward for those, the convenience of those in the public gallery. The item that Mr. Bradbury is referring to is very soon, so I'll indulge with Mr. Bradbury and just go through it. Won't take long to get to that item. Item number 12 is reports of committee meetings. 12.1 is a Bushfire Advisory Committee meeting held 18th of March 2025. First, we've got receipt of the minutes. So we've got the 2 separate items here, receipt of the minutes. Councillor Menchilli is moving, Councillor Gierak is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against receipt of the minutes? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. And then we have the adoption of the recommendations, which run from page 42 to page 47. Councillor Menchilli is moving those. Councillor Poulton is seconded. Anyone likely to speak against adoption of those recommendations? No, so all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. We are still on page 49 now. So item 13 is officer reports. 13.1 is CEO's office. 13.1.1 is Australia Day Citizen of the Year voting. And the recommendation is on page 52. Councillor Gira is moving. Councillor Shelley is seconding. Is anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. We now go to page 55. So item 13.2 is engineering services, that is nil. Item 13.3 is development and community services, which is 13.3.1, proposed scheme amendment number 20, 185 Wellington Street Northern. Just a reminder that Councillor Gierak declared impartiality in this item. Councillor Gierak has declared an impartiality interest in this item. Councillor Gierak declares that she will consider the matter on its merit and vote accordingly. And so we have a recommendation on page 59 and 60. Councillor Ryan has a question.
Just in light of comments made by Mr. Gregory, can I query as to where the notices went out? That they did go out, doing that. Someone's come to show me today and informed us all that there was no notice going out. So that concerns me. I'd just like to know what the evidence was.
I'll go through the CEO and see if CEO was to test the answer.
Yes, so I've just googled public notice on our website, and there was a public notice there for the reclassification of 185 Wellington Street. The detail will no longer be there, however, because the consultation period has closed, so the public notice was on our website. I'm aware that it was also on our social media channels because there were comments made at the time, including by Mr. Bradbury. There was a letter drop, so while we're not required to do a letter drop as part of the advertising of the scheme amendment, there was a letter drop done within a 100-metre radius of the proposed, the residents affected by the proposal, and that was 27 residents that received those letters. In regard to the public notice in the newspaper, it may have in fact been in the West Australian rather than the local newspaper.
Councillor Hughes had a question.
Would there be a problem just re-advertising this so we have no trouble? People? Normal?
We can look at re-advertising again. It has been advertised in accordance with the requirements for a scheme amendment, with the addition of also letter dropping the residents within 100 metres, but we can advertise again. Noting that this proposal is only related to the accommodation. It's not related to the restaurant because the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage advised that the restaurant is already an advertised permitted use.
I'll just confirm, Councillor Hughes, looks like you're going to ask another question. I'll answer it, sort of half ask a question to the staff, because as this just is a rezoning, any development application would be required to be advertised to the public. I just want to confirm that, Councillor Hughes. Half answer yours and ask a question at the same time.
Yes, so if the development application includes an advertised purpose, which a restaurant is, then it would have to be advertised, yes. And a lot of the detail that is being referred to would actually be included as part of the development application, and it's not appropriate as part of the scheme amendment.
So we have a recommendation on page 59 and 60.
President, if I may,
Yeah.
just ask one question.
Yep.
Ordinarily, these proposals would be advertised in the West Australian. They wouldn't be advertised in the local paper, would they?
I'd hate to take that question on notice, but I think it would normally be in the West Australian rather than the advertiser, because of the timeframes of the advertiser. Often it's better to advertise in the West.
Question. Councillor Vivian.
Mr. President, just very concerned that Ms. Bradbury's concerns are actually not part of what we are voting on tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So things like parking, amenity issues, those types of things, that level of detail is included in a development application, not in a scheme amendment.
So should the council agree to approve this rezoning tonight, that does not give the applicant the approval to do the car parking or do any of those things.
That's correct. They would need to go through a development application process.
Thank you very much.
One more.
Councillor Hughes.
When the development application goes in, that will be re-advertised
Yes, yes, yes.
and in the local paper, I think. As long as we don't get the West involved.
Yes, so as is required, though, we have to put the notice in a publication that is statewide distribution, and it did go into the West Australian on the.
Yes, I've just had a look at our purchasing records, and a purchase order was raised for the West Australian on the 6th of February.
Yes. So, to answer your question, yes. Councillor Michelle, you do.
Another supplementary question, Mr. President. Mr. Bradbury raised the issue of conferring with the police. Now, I'm a little bit astounded why we do that at this particular stage. Yeah. Well,
I'm happy to advise if I can speak.
No.
Sorry. Yeah. So I just want to know what relevance is there with the police conferring with the council on this at this planning stage?
There is no point at this point in time because the scheme amendment relates only to the accommodation. So the restaurant is already an advertised permitted use. So we've been advised by the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage to remove that component from the scheme amendment because it's already allowed. This scheme amendment relates specifically to the accommodation, and we wouldn't liaise with the police in regard to accommodation.
Thank you. Councillor Gierak.
Another question. So the restaurant is already a permitted use in the parent state, but that does not get a liquor license. So the applicant still will have to apply for a liquor license as well, and that might not be permitted anyway. So that's not up to the council to decide.
That's correct. So the restaurant is an advertised permitted use, which means that if we received a development application for that, it would have to be advertised, and obviously the applicant would also have to go through the appropriate other licensing requirements or approval requirements that would be in place for that type of facility.
Councillor Hughes has got a question.
Yeah. Well, can we be guaranteed that if the application goes in for the development, that they will give a letter drop in their letterbox within the 300 metres or 150 metres radius of that spot? So everyone keeps everyone happy. That's all I'm after.
So if we were to receive a development application, we could certainly note that we would do a letter drop as part of that as well within the 300 metre radius.
Councillor Gierak.
Just another question. In regards to the scheme amendment is only relevant to the accommodation facilities. So if the accommodation facilities will be established, that only requires parking for the accommodation facilities. If the land will be used for accommodation, and then after the applicant is applying for the restaurant and there is no sufficient land on the premises to facilitate parking for the restaurant, then Shire can refuse that the restaurant established.
That's correct. I guess we're getting into the level of detail that needs to be considered as part of a development application. So at the moment, this is purely focused on the scheme amendment, which relates to the accommodation. All of those other details would have to be fleshed out as part of a development application.
So we have a recommendation on page 59 and 60. Councillor Atherton is moving.
I'll second it.
Councillor Menchel is seconding. Does anyone like to speak against this recommendation? So if not, I'll put that, councillor Appleton's motion. All those in favour by show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. And I didn't forget to say before, so any member of the public, the other two left, as their item comes up and goes, you're quite welcome to stay or go. Stay and enjoy hospitality or go, Gary. Thank you. Now we are going to page 115. So 13.3.2, renaming section of Lyons Street Northern, recommendation on page 117. Councillor Hughes is moving.
I'll second it.
Councillor Mencheli is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. Then we're going to go to page 120. Now, while I read this out, I'm just going to look over here in a sec. 13.3.3, Child Safe Awareness Policy. Councillor Williams.
I'd like to move the recommendation with a minor amendment, please.
Yeah, so we're on page 124, councillors. So you can see up on the board. Would you like me to read it out, Councillor Williams? Yep.
The council endorses the child safety awareness policy as per attachments 13.3.3.1 and 13.3.3.2 to this report, subject to the following amendment: that paragraph 3 under policy be amended to training will be provided for council members, workers, volunteers, trainees, work experience students, and anyone who undertakes work on behalf of the Shire.
So everyone's quite clear on that. So do we have a second to the Councillor Williams? Councillor Mincelli, didn't even get that question. Yeah, Councillor. Sorry? Sorry, okay, Councillor Williams has moved, as up on the board. Councillor Mincelli has seconded. Is anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. Councillor Williams, I was going to ask for an explanation, but please help explain it to me anyway, so you need to go there. For now, we're on page 134. 13.4 is corporate services. 13.4.1 is accounts and statements of accounts for March 2025. Recommendation on page 136. Councillor Polton is moving. Councillor Ryan is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. And then we go to page 191. We've got two recommendations, councillors. So 13.4.2 is monthly financial report for the period ending 31st of March 2025. So the first one is on page 193, which is, as I can get to it, so I can read it out, receive the financial statement. So we've got that one first. So Councillor Hughes is moving, Councillor Appleton is seconding. You did half move up, Councillor Hughes, so that's good. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. And then based on the commentary, we've got a recommendation spread over page 193, 194 for the amendments in the budget. Councillor Mincelli is moving. Councillor Appleton is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. Then we go to page 213. So we have item 14, matters behind closed doors. So we've got a recommendation there. Just Councillor Williams is moving, Councillor Polton is seconding. I'll put that straight to the vote. So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. Alice, can you just shut that door unless you're going? Oh, you shut that door and go. So now we're just going to go to the confidential agenda. So we can go to that section. Just a reminder for 14.1, application under C4.29, rates hardship A12909. Both Councillor Hughes and Councillor Mincelli declared impartiality in this item. As they have declared impartiality, interest in this item, they also declared that they will consider the matter All those in favour by a show of hands? That's 9-0, that's carried. We'll make sure we read that for this. So just as we come out from behind closed doors, thank you. So behind closed doors, the confidential items, item 14.1, which is application under CP 29 rates hardship, A12909. There was a recommendation there that council approves the payment arrangement of $50 per fortnight for the current owner of A12909 until 30 June 2026. That was carried. We have item 14.2, which is rates write-off request A1479. There was a recommendation there in two parts. The council R1 approves the write-off of $6,063.73 of outstanding rates and charges for A1479 under section 6.12 in brackets 1 in bracket C of the Local Government Act 1995. And 2, instructs the Chief Executive Officer to seek approval from the Department of Fire and Emergency Services to write off $86.85 for the emergency service levy and ESL late payment interest associated with A1479. And then we had item 4.3, which was a Chief Executive Officer Review and Selection Committee meeting held on 26th of March 2025. Receipt of the minutes, recommendation which was carried, and just a reminder that 14.2 was carried. Forgot to say that, my apologies. 14.2, receipt of minutes, that council receives the minutes from the Chief Executive Officer Review and Selection Committee meeting held on the 26th of March 2025. As I mentioned, that was carried. And then we had the adoption of the recommendations. The council accepts the Chief Executive Officer Key Performance Indicator Progress Report from 23 November 2024 to 21 March 2025 as presented in attachment 6.1.1 of the committee minutes, and that was also about to all items to be carried, just in case it was not clear. So we now go to item 15, motions which previous notice has been given is nil. Item 16, urgent business approved by decision, that is nil. Item 17, declaration of closure, is made at 6:06 p.m. Thank you, councillors, for your input and questions in the debate, and thank you, officers, for the professionalism and report of the